Welcome to another episode. It's Wednesday, and just like we
Good old
promised, we are going to discuss J.D. Vance. I can tell you right off the top that two of us might be on board and two of us might not be. I'll let you guys know, and you guys can figure out. I guess I'm going. Okay, better yet, poll. Which ones on the panel today do you believe is pro Vance or against Vance? Here's how you're gonna say it. I'm gonna take it first. Which two are for Vance? And you put our initials in, or you want to spell our name out. Which two do you think are pro Vance? Let's start there.
Let's see how in tuned our audience is.
Yeah, how in tune are you? How in tune?
You guys been following us?
Have
for
y'all
a
been paying
while.
attention?
Yeah. Have you paid attention to our session?
Okay, we have an answer.
Okay.
Same me and him.
Lee and
Vance.
Coy are pro Vance,
Okay.
or at least okay with Vance being the VP pick.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
I mean,
How
sure,
close?
we'll-
How close
we'll
are
go.
we?
I have no idea who he is, so I haven't decided.
So yeah, it's more like two decided and two undecided because like I was
Two
trying to
undecided.
maintain a neutral stance while researching him. So
I was going in
I did enough
happy about
research.
the pick, and then I saw the research, and I was not so happy about the pick.
Same
Yeah.
here.
I think there's more questions than answers I got. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Let's start with his ad. That's what you want to start with. Let's do that first.
yeah, I wanted to start with this because it's funny because it give you a good introduction. So this is a campaign ad he ran when he was going for the Senate.
Are you a racist?
Oh,
Do you hate Mexicans? The media called
Just stop right there, and that's the rest of the ad right there.
hey, it's ironic. Somebody in the audience said that Coy and I are pro Vance. Why would you think that? Because he's a vet.
No,
All right, let me get
because,
this. Let me get-
because you're the hooch, man.
But let
Yeah.
me get this out there right now. I don't blindly support someone because they're a vet. Just like I don't.
It gives him
blindly
a
support
plus
someone-
1 point up, but
It
that's
doesn't. It give him a plus one. It just he was a vet like millions and millions of other people. If he's either a good person or a bad person, that's how I see people. I don't.
In my
fancy
view,
buzzing.
it gives them a plus 1 for me, but then they can lose it very quickly depending on what they say next.
Right.
No one gets a plus
That's what it
one
is.
with me. You got to show me.
Do you like Mexicans? Okay.
Yeah, so I know that's a really terrible way to stop it, but it's pretty funny the way it goes. But like, listen
calls
to
us
this.
racist for wanting to build Trump's wall. They censor us, but it doesn't change the truth. Joe Biden's open border is killing Ohioans, with more illegal drugs and more Democrat voters pouring into this country. This issue is personal. I nearly lost my mother to the poison coming across our border. No child should grow up an orphan. I'm J.D. Vance, and I approve this message because whatever they call us, we will put America first.
Now, one of the things that he is notable for is the fact that he is the author of Hillbilly Eulogy. All right, Elegy. Sorry, I always mess it up. Elegy. I've never read the book. I don't know really what the book is about, other than what people have said. There was a TikTok creator I saw earlier today that was talking about it and how she basically called him a carpetbagger. That's what it really came down to. She called him a carpetbagger, in that he's clothing himself in Appalachian identity in order to sell a book, and then now using it to run as for the Senate, and then now for the VP.
Oh, interesting.
So like his book was very disparaging, that basically everything that poor whites face is their fault, like all the way through. It's like, and to be fair, a lot of the poor whites that I know coming from the Ozarks make really dumb decisions, just like the inner city communities of black folks make really dumb decisions when it comes with money. Like that's sort of fair. All right. They do make dumb decisions and buy things they don't need.
Okay.
So
one of the
then,
things he
he's
mentions in
not
his book.
wrong. So the book is not
he's not.
bad. It
He's
just hurts
100%
feelings.
correct. Yeah.
It hurts feelings. Yeah,
and
it
you know,
hurts
in
a lot
today's
of
world,
feelings.
everyone gets upset over race. I'm tired. I am sick and tired of hearing about poor this, poor that, this race, that race, all these races. I just want to look at the guy and say, what is he bringing to my pocket? Is he going to help me save money, or is he going to be a part of taking money from me? That's how I vote. I vote with my pocketbook. Either I'm making it or they're taking it. Are we going to war or are we not going to war? All that race, black, white, Asian, Mexican, the first this, the first that, the first vet, the first this, the youngest, I don't care.
Mhm.
I just don't care.
I was trying to look for. Do we have Trump's actual like announcement for him?
No.
Because like that's what I was wondering. Is like I'm wondering what he said about him because I know what he used to say about Donald Trump, which I was
Trump,
going to bring
yeah.
up next.
Yeah, I watched the RNC convention when they announced it, and Trump didn't announce it. He was in the audience, and they announced J.D. Vance, or I was even there. But I remember them announcing it, but Trump didn't get up there and say, "Hey, here's my running mate. It's going to be this guy." So I don't know if he even talked about it yet.
Well, because I think they had it prearranged. Because like once Trump was shot, they actually went to go protect Vance, even though he hadn't been announced yet. So that's one of the things. Like it was already pre-done. But here's some of the things that he had said and then says now.
As somebody who doesn't like Trump, myself, the elites were right about Donald Trump, right? I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
He's the best president of my lifetime, and he revealed the corruption in this country like nobody else.
I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious and is leading the white working class to a very dark place. I think that he was a good president. I think he made a lot of good decisions for people.
I take it you're not a Trump supporter from what I've read. Am I right? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah. I didn't vote for Trump.
All around, he was a great president. I'm 37 years old. Certainly the best president of my lifetime.
As somebody who doesn't like Trump.
So coming off of that, there's some other posts I'd like to bring up with that other people have posted and some of the things that he said online.
Marlon, can't hear you.
Can we call him a fickle individual, flip-flopper, or did he have a view of Trump during his presidency and then change his mind nearly to the end of the presidency?
Which is fair. People are allowed to change their minds. I think we use the term flip-flopper too easily in some cases.
Yeah.
Sometimes people can be convinced to change their mind, and we shouldn't vilify people that change their mind, right? However, I will preface that with a however with the next things because of where is it? I think I had it on here. Where's he? Here's one about how he talks about Trump. Trump makes people I care about afraid. Immigrants, Muslim, etc. Because of this, I find him reprehensible, and God wants better of us. That's one of the things he said. He's also compared him to Hitler before as well.
What year was that?
16. That was the year he got elected.
It's 2016, and the year that he got elected. So it's very weird to me that a guy that went from being a never Trumper to literally calling him Hitler himself, just like the left has, to becoming persuaded to come around to be his VP pick. Like, at what point did he change his mind is my biggest question.
And here it is, man. You know, guys like J.D. Vance and Mike Pence, the guys like that, establishment guys, they were picked by the RNC. The RNC is not going to back Trump, give him all those delegates, give him all that backing without a freaking catch-22. So the RNC, they saw it, they saw the field, and they was like, you're going to pick J.D. Vance in order to get our support, all these delegates from each state, because he got hundreds and thousands of delegates from each state. Why? The reason he had to pick J.D. Vance, an establishment guy, a former no Trumper, which he probably still is, just like Mike Pence was, and they put him in there. So, like Marlon said, after looking at the guy, I don't trust the dude. He's another Pence. Just changed it to a VA.
Younger.
Yeah,
no,
a younger version of Pence. That's what you're going for it.
Yeah. I have a conspiracy theory. Okay, now hear me out. This is why I'm thinking out loud. They pick him as VP because the RNC is in on the next hit that they're going to take on Trump, and they hope to push him as the replacement if the successful attempt is actually made.
Interesting.
Because he's palpable, they can handle him. Then the RNC knows him, and if he is playing for the same team as the, House Republicans, the ones that stay in the back pockets for money, I could easily see them picking him, codify his pick as the one running, and take out Trump. Now, they risk, of course, Biden winning because JD's an unknown. But are any of the Republicans really complaining with the Biden presidency? No.
Some of the
they're not making nearly a stink enough.
Not as much as they should be.
I've seen reportings that some of the donors are actually concerned about JD Vance. for some reason. I'm not sure what those particular reasons are, but they are very squeamish about him. And that's an interesting point. This is also some report, like this is how the media is reporting for J.D Vance. I'm gonna pull that out, Marlon. Here's another one of those videos.
Who is J.D Vance? J.D Vance was just announced as Donald Trump's running mate and vice president if Trump wins the election in November. J.D Vance is a 39-year-old Republican senator from Ohio. He is known for his ability to connect personally with working-class voters and is the author of Hillbilly Elegy, a memoir about his working-class journey. He is a Trump critic turned loyalist. In 2016, Vance said he was never a Trump guy and that he didn't see Trump offering many solutions. But Vance eventually aligned with the former president, praising his time in office and apologizing for criticizing him during an interview with Fox News in 2021. Trump endorsed Vance in the Ohio Senate primary in May 2022, which helped Vance secure a spot as senator. Vance has opposed sending aid to Ukraine and has spoken out against cuts to Social Security. After the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, he worked on bipartisan railway safety legislation. Vance is a close friend of Trump's oldest son, Donald Trump Jr., and insiders say the former president enjoys being around him.
So that's how, I guess, best case scenario. This is how they're looking at it. The best case scenario is that he's supports a working class. He's against the Ukraine aid, which I have a Zelensky clip we'll play later when we talk about that in terms of foreign policy. But and his record as a military vet. But it seems like he got in with them really well, and I wonder how much of that is just political maneuvering in order to further his position. Because like the way it comes off to me, especially when it comes to J.D. Vance, is that he's a political animal, just like any of the other ones in Washington. He's done all the right things, went to all the right places in order to get into the place that he's at. So he's going to be the youngest VP pick in history, right? At 39 years old. He's also one of the first vets in the millennial generation to actually be a VP pick, is another thing. The other thing that he's also getting hammered by, especially on the right, but those are the actual like nationalist right, are talking about his wife, which is a Hindu woman, by the way. And so they keep hammering.
He's not racist then.
Yeah, which is really going to be hard for them to go, hey, you're racist when he has 3 Hindu kids. Like, that's going to be really hard to convince people of that when he's got a brown wife. So I don't think that's true. But what they're saying is like, oh, yeah, he's going to be really tough on immigration because his wife happens to come from 2 immigrant parents who immigrated to the United States legally. And then she went to all the right places, too. So, like, Usha Vance, that's his wife's name, is one of those people that are probably the one behind his campaign. And probably the brains. Honestly, if we're being real honest, she's probably the brains. So she's definitely like a Republican version of Hillary Clinton, but a better one.
I want to address this comment real quick. I'm not putting you on blast. I want to make sure I preface that. There's a straight up political article on him. Just read it. As far as it goes, pretty in depth. He's a Democrat's worst nightmare as a genuine conservative intellectual. I'm not doubting that he is now pushing conservative ideologies to the point that agrees with Donald Trump. I'm not disputing that at all. My problem is the sudden switch. Yeah, and to me, it's sudden. I get it that 16, he had a problem with him. And he grew a beard and changed his mind. I don't know if beards change people's minds, but apparently it might. And
doesn't with me.
And as far as I've heard him a couple of times, and I have heard him sound pretty right, you know. But what I can't get over is the fact that we've been burned once before with somebody who didn't align with Trump, aligned with him for his presidency, and then stabbed him in the back.
Yeah. Yep.
That's all I know. Like, I can't trust it twice.
And
see this. Go ahead,
Michael.
I'll go after.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay, so like what I was gonna say is like I said, J.D. Vance, like I said, to use the term that the other TikTok creator made about him in his book, is that, you know, it's hard to get along with a carpetbagger because the type of individual that's a carpetbagger is a person that goes to a place in order to get elected, and that's what most people feel like when it comes to him, right? Even though he's from Ohio. He claims to be from Appalachia, but he's from the northern part of Appalachia, not like Kentucky Appalachia, which is what his book is basically about.
Right.
But that's where he visited on the summers and then wrote a book about it. Like, he wasn't from that area, so they consider him a carpetbagger. right? So a person that is a carpetbagger, I'm going to say it again, is the type of person that does things that benefit them regardless of where they have to go do it. And that kind of mentality rubs me the wrong way in that fashion. So I think it'd be good.
And here's the deal. You know, we've seen this all throughout politics. We saw it with Kamala Harris when she ran with Joe Biden in the very first 2020. And how she called him a racist. He was this bad person. He was all this, that, and the other. Then he winds up picking her for the VP. It's all politics, man. And the same thing with Vance. Vance is still a never Trumper. But in order to get where he wants to get, as Coy stated, he's going to play along to get along until that time comes to where Trump slips up. And as Marlon stated, he's going to stab him in the back, just like Mike Pence did. Or, as Marlon stated, and as a lot of us agree, something's going to end up happening again to Trump. And then Vance is going to step in and take over. And Biden's probably going to end up winning again.
So I think it'd be good. I got a couple of videos we can watch about listening to the man himself talk. And this is from his the Senate debate that he had.
Watch this. You know what I haven't done? I didn't start a fake nonprofit pretending like I was going to help people with addiction like J.D. Vance did. Literally started a nonprofit and didn't spend one nickel on anybody. In fact, he brought in somebody from Purdue Pharma to be the spokesperson for the nonprofit. The same drug company, Big Pharma, the big drug company that had all the pill mills going, got everybody addicted. 1 million people died, JD. 1 million people died.
Which he's not wrong. He's also was a very pro-vaccine mandate person as well. Just want to point that out. Another negative in the camp on this side is that anybody that like was for vaccine mandate, especially after everything we know now, is going to give you a negative regardless.
Yeah.
But then he's doing the same sort of thing that all these other politicians have done, which is do the fake nonprofit thing.
Right.
Which kind of, and you hired a Purdue Pharma guy. That's a bit concerning in my book to be that close to Big Pharma. Just going to put that out there. What do you guys think so far?
I hear you. But again, we see some red flags that I cannot avoid. I cannot say that these flags are something I can ignore. I am not trusting the switch in this person's psyche. I cannot trust it because if you flip-flop that way, you can always flip-flop the other way. You can easily change your mind based on one thing. If it's one thing I can give Trump credit for is this. What he said way back in the day is the same stuff he's saying now.
Yeah.
He's been saying this stuff since he was in his 30s.
Yep.
Okay.
Consistently.
So there's a consistent record with him. Everything he said, he stood on. These people, that's not the case.
Yeah.
Which is why I tell you I can't trust him. I can't.
But this is also why you guys watch us, is because we're not just following the narrative because somebody said so. Like, I don't care that Tucker has an opinion about it. Like, I have my own opinion about it. We're not always going to see eye to eye on everything when it comes to the right. Like, especially when it comes to me, I'm more lefty than the rest of the guys here. But we all agree that J.D. Vance is fishy.
Very fishy.
Like, that's what it really comes down to. He is fishy. Whether we're right or wrong, like, we'll tell in time. But hopefully we're wrong. But if we're not, we told you ahead of time.
Yeah. And on Coy's point, you see this a lot of times on the right and the left. People tend to just follow, their favorite commentator said it or their favorite person said it. So they just go with it and they trust the person that they're watching on TV. And that's the biggest problem in our society. On this podcast, we never tell you guys just to trust us. Go look it up, research it, and come up with your own opinion, because we are an opinion-based show. We give you our opinion, what we think, but it's up to you to go figure it out on your own. And if you support J.D. Vance, so be it. That's who you support. If you support Biden, so be it. That's who you support. But just because Tucker Carlson, I don't bow down to Tucker Carlson.
The other thing I want to I realized something recently about what I think is bad character picking. I think he's picking based on one thing that he cannot do in politics, which is fire at will.
Yep.
What I think he's been doing, and this is why if you check his first administration, he fired willy-nilly when you didn't do something he fired. He's used to having people get a job from him. When you don't do the job efficiently, you're gone. He's used to that, which is why character has not been on the top level, because if you don't produce, because you could be an a-hole to a lot of people, but you get the job done as an a-hole. And people will look at your character and think, well, he's an a-hole, I can't hire him. But in Trump's mind, he's like, nah, he'll get the job done though.
Yep.
He may not talk to you nice, but he'll get the job done. And I think if he would stop treating his new role as president to be that way, you would see him pick differently. I think you would see him pick on the basis of the character himself, as opposed to whether they get the job done. And so he's not used to having this limited power, even in the most unlimited power role that you could think of. Because as president, you really can't do a whole lot about the people that you supposedly pick after you pick them.
There's a lot of weights on your feet.
To somebody else.
Yeah, there's a lot of weights on your feet for sure.
And on Marlon's point, especially with the establishment, everybody knows these clubs, the Republicans and the Democrats. This is why we don't call ourselves Republicans. We're conservatives. I'm not part of the club. But the thing is,
I don't like Republicans.
It's hard for Trump because once the establishment turns against you in your own party, you get nothing done.
Well,
so he has to. Go ahead, Jay. I'm sorry.
I'm saying we've seen that already in 2020 when the entire. I mean, Trump ran as a Republican, and then he, pulled off all of his policies for the most part throughout his first 3 years of his presidency. Rona hit, and then November hits, and then we see the entire Republican establishment flip. Pence flips, and we can't stand. And so we've seen that already, and I think it would do all of us, a disservice to ignore that. And then I think it would do us a great disservice to ignore that. And then it would serve us well to ensure that J.D. Vance, you do this, you pull a Pence, I swear to you, you're done, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So,
but
I don't
then
know.
it's too late, though. You see, that's I don't want to take that chance. Get all the way to where it matters most, and you're the one weak link. I would have, if I were to pick, if it was me, I would have picked somebody just like me, but mirrored. What I mean, just like me, is somebody who has never been in politics their whole life and will be a straight shooter their whole life and has at least told you exactly what they're about their whole life, like Ben Carson.
Yep.
You see, if he had picked, this is why I would have picked Ben. This is why. Ben is not going to go emotional on you. He'll just state what has to be stated and be done. He's not going to engage with you in hyperbole. He's not going to get on stage with you and lose his composure. He has no composure left to lose. He's been a brain surgeon. He knows how to be calm under pressure. But the other thing is, he doesn't lie. And so when Ben gets up there and he says something and you bring something back to him that he said years ago, and you'll say, and? So there's nothing you can use on Ben. There is no history on Ben. There's no dirt on Ben. There's nothing you can bring about Ben. The problem that people have with Ben is that he's not charismatic. I don't want somebody charismatic. Donald Trump has enough charisma for everybody. We don't need more than that. He has enough to share, give away, lose, and still have enough for him. Ben will be level-headed. He at least follows a moral compass that you can't shake. And that's who I would have picked, but he didn't get picked. And it wasn't because he was black. I picked Ben because he has a brain. And his moral compass is set in stone. He doesn't flip-flop based on what somebody's getting paid. And that's what I would have preferred. I don't know. And we'll look at his voting record in a minute, J.D. Vance's voting record.
But my thing is, would it matter at the end of the run, because this would be Trump's last stand anyways?
Yeah, and I can't look at it like that. It would matter because that person might be running next for president.
Yeah, because that's basically what it comes down to, is who's the successor after Trump steps down, like after he's done in this last one. That's what it really comes down to. This is before we get started on this clip, I want to say he is also a Yale graduate. I want to point that out. You need to know he's from Yale. So is his wife. They met at Yale, and that's how they got together. They are people that went to an Ivy League school just like all the rest of them. They were lawyers. All right. So here he's talking about the universities, and the interviewers push back on him and his views.
I want to ask you about some of the things you said about American universities. I know you've been very critical of them. You gave an interview in February. You said the closest conservatives have ever gotten to successfully dealing with the left-wing domination of universities is Viktor Orban's approach in Hungary. I think his way has to be the model for us, not to eliminate universities, but to give the choice between survival or taking a much less biased approach to teaching. he seized control of state universities and put them in foundations that were then run by his allies. Is that what you're advocating be done in the United States?
Well, Margaret, what you're seeing in the United States actually is that universities are controlled by left-wing foundations. They're not controlled by the American taxpayer, and yet the American taxpayer is sending hundreds of billions of dollars to these universities every single year.
I don't want taxpayers controlling education necessarily. Is that what you're
What?
advocating for?
Wow.
Margaret, what I'm advocating
Control?
for is for taxpayers to have a say in how their money is spent. Universities
That's right.
are part of a social contract in this country. They educate our children. They produce important intellectual property. They get a lot of money because of it. But if they're not educating our children well and they're layering the next generation down in mountains of student debt, then they're not meeting their end of the bargain. I think it's totally reasonable to say there needs to be a political solution to that problem.
Well, America's universities still attract talent from around the world, as
That
you
has
went
nothing
to
to do
one
with
of
it.
America's very top schools.
Look,
But-
there's still good
but-
things about American universities, but it's going in the wrong direction, Margaret.
But so,
Which is
but
not
Viktor
wrong.
Orban in
He's right.
particular, as you know, I mean, he rewrote the Constitution, he neutered the courts, he has tried to control the media.
See how they're trying
These
to
are
them
not
together.
necessarily conservative principles. So why would you want to mimic him?
Well, look, I'm not endorsing every single thing that Viktor Orban has ever done. I don't know
Oh, that's the-
everything.
that's
he's
the
ever
card
done.
she
What I
pulled.
do think is on the university principle, the idea that taxpayers should have some influence in how their money is spent at these universities, it's a totally reasonable thing, and I do think that he's made some smart decisions there that we could learn from the United States.
Well, he was just welcomed at Mar-a-Lago, and as you know, Leader McConnell just spoke out on the floor of the Senate this past week after Xi Jinping visited Hungary. He's trying to broker trade deals. They're brokering trade deals not just with Russia, but with Iran. Orban, because of this, McConnell said it should be a red flag for anyone seriously concerned about competition with China. So why take any policy cues from a man and a country and a strategy?
That's what they
cozying up
always
to
do.
America's adversaries.
Well, look, Margaret, Hungary is a nation of 10 million people. America is a nation of 330 million people in the most important economy in the world. I don't think that we should take every cue, but I actually have to reject the premise here because why is Viktor Orban getting closer to China? In part because American leadership is not making smart decisions. We are pushing other nations into the arms of the Chinese because we don't make enough stuff, because we pursue a ridiculous foreign policy very often. We have to be more self-reliant. I don't like China. I don't like that China has stolen a lot of American jobs. The reason they've done it is because American leadership has made bad decisions. That's our fault, and that's something we can fix as Americans.
Which all of that is great. I don't disagree with anything he said, any of that stuff. If that was the only thing that was,
And if he means it,
yeah, if he means it, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
Which he doesn't.
let's look and see if he means it. Let's look at his voting record. Okay,
Yeah.
that will tell us something. Is that clear? Let's get a little bit bigger. There we go.
Yeah.
All right. So, a joint resolution to direct determination of the use of United States Armed Forces construction I don't want this. No thank you.
ad.
Joint direction determination of the United States Armed Forces for the construction, maintenance, and operation of joint logistics over the shore pier on the coast of the Gaza Strip that has not been authorized by Congress.
Yep.
And he voted against that, right?
I hope
Yeah, I
he
think that's
did.
what it was.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
All right. So let's back up here and let's see the rest of them. So he voted no on the Reproductive Freedom for Women's Act. That's not a bad thing. He's against abortion. At least he put his vote there.
Yep.
Fire Grants and Safety Act. A bill proposed to expand nationwide access to fertility treatment, including in vitro fertilization. He voted no on. Let's take a look at what exactly the right to contraception. He did not vote. Border Act of 2024, no. Joint resolution for congressional disapproval under Chapter 8, Title 5, United States. Let's look at that one real quick. Energy and conservation standards. And he voted no on that.
That's good.
He did not vote on the sub one, securing growth and robust leadership in American Aviation Act. He voted yes. But there was another portion that he voted no. I'm assuming that was they had two different versions of the bill.
That's probably what it was. Yeah.
Yep. And,
it sounds like a very DEI thing.
Yep. Reforming Intelligence and Securing America Act. He did not vote.
I wonder why he missed that vote.
Let's see what that one's about. A bill to pass, it's a vote to pass a bill that reauthorizes Title VII of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. Oh,
He
for
didn't vote
5
on that
years
one. That
and
was
makes changes to FISA, including certain restrictions on surveillance under Section 702.
that is an
They
important vote, and I can't believe he missed that one.
And I can't believe he did not vote on that, especially with
Yeah,
the split
that
that's
one's
going
a-
on here.
Yeah, that's a red flag to me.
Mhm.
Like, especially FISA court stuff.
So there are more than just personality red flags. Now, what we
Policy
don't
red flags
know,
too, right?
what we don't know is whether or not the bill that he was voting on had some pork in it that he could not get around.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also true because we
That's
can't
the only
we can
thing I
read
can
what he
think.
voted on, but we don't know the bills unless we go in
Yeah.
and read them ourselves.
Because we all know how they work. I understand fully that when it's a so-called bipartisan bill, the left will always try and put stupid stuff in there to try and get in, so that they can say later, see, you didn't vote for the vets. And we went over this before,
Yeah.
where we saw a
Mhm.
bill pass for a certain thing, and the money for Ukraine specifically.
Yep.
Yeah,
But
which
they put it
he's very
in the-
anti-Ukraine.
Yeah, and
money.
they put it in the bill for the border, but the whole amount of money, that $100 and something billion,
Right.
the border only got 12 million. And so you have the rest for Ukraine. So how is that a border bill?
Yeah, and it's just like Nancy Pelosi. You guys remember she said a few years ago that you have to vote on it to find out what's in it.
Right.
That
Yeah,
was
and-
for Obamacare. That was for
Yeah.
Obamacare.
You have to vote for it to find out what's in it. So it's
Yeah.
I can understand why some of these he may or may not have voted for, because they don't know what's in it.
What's this one?
Which is what I would say. This one is a speech he was giving in Britain, I believe. And it's about immigration, obviously. When you're in England, I guess it would be about. But take a listen. It's still along the lines of things that we say and think. But like I said, it's just showing what the man says and then having your own opinions based on the information given.
What is the first truly Islamist country that will get a nuclear weapon? And we were like, maybe it's Iran, maybe Pakistan already kind of counts. And then we sort of finally decided maybe it's actually the UK, since Labour just took over. But
yeah, a bit harsh, but it's true.
But to my Tory friends, I have to say, you guys have got to get a handle on this. American leaders should look out for Americans. And by the way, I know for the Brits here, UK leaders should look out for citizens of the UK, or subjects, or whatever you guys call yourselves in the UK. In place after place after place, populations keep on telling their leadership that they want less immigration, and their leadership keeps on refusing to listen to them. This is like a fundamental broken translation function in our sacred democracy that our elites don't seem to care about. And why don't our elites
Red
seem
flag.
to care about it? Well, number one,
Well, he was doing
they
air
really
quotes. You
benefit
couldn't see it
from
off
the
screen.
cheap labor.
Oh.
Okay. Number two, they actually don't really like the people who make up the domestic populations of their own country. It's one of the things that we consistently find from the UK elites to certainly the American elites, is they seem to really not like their own fellow citizens. The thing on immigration is that no one can avoid that it has made our societies poorer, less safe, less prosperous, and less advanced. If you look at, for example, the United Kingdom,
Pause that real quick.
if immigration,
I'm going to bring him down for a second, but don't lose that spot.
Yeah.
I wish that they would speak more clearly about legal people versus lawbreakers.
Yep.
The reason I have an issue with that is because I am a legal immigrant. A person coming here illegally is not an immigrant. I want people to understand that. You have to put the title of what you did before what you did. You are illegally coming into a country that you are not allowed to come in through the right passages. You told no, and you came in anyway. That makes you a criminal. You are not the same as somebody who paid money to enter the country, went through background checks, had to learn your laws, and followed your rules. Stop calling them immigrants. They're not. They are criminals. I don't care if it's a kid. I don't care if it's granny. You are a criminal because you broke a law.
That's right.
I don't
Yeah.
care if you're fleeing from hardship. You know what you have for that? Amnesty. And you know what you do when you're really running? You go through the border to get protection. You
That's
don't
right.
fly across the middle of the Sahara Desert kind of settings and break through a barbed wire fence and sprint through someone's yard and squat.
Yep.
Okay.
And Mark,
stop making us the same as them. We're not the same.
and on that point, Marlon, now they use the term asylum seekers. You know, they first we were
Right.
calling them illegals, and they said they're undocumented. Now they're saying, oh, they're asylum seekers. And the question I always ask, since we're on this topic,
Undocumented
is-
citizens.
or undocumented or asylum seekers, is what are they seeking asylum from? Because if you're seeking asylum, the key word is you're running from something, some genocide, war, something. But when they say these people are seeking asylum, that's like a blanket term for somebody just jumping the border from freaking Tijuana. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not seeking asylum in Tijuana. So what are they seeking asylum from? And I'm always asking that question, and no one can answer it.
There are videos currently that exist on the internet where there are military-age males saying that basically coming to Europe and America through this illegal immigration or just asylum-seeking passageway, they view it as going a Viking. Let's put it like that. They're plundering. They're going to plunder. They're going for their adventure, right? They're not economic migrants. They're coming here to plunder. And they've even said this and admitted this, especially when it comes to certain males in the world. They're coming here specifically to plunder and to get whatever they can get and then get sent back because there's no repercussions. Do whatever you want here. They'll just send you back anyway.
Yep.
Right. So they're coming here for that Viking experience. Let's put it like that. So it's crazy to me.
I don't agree with the conflation between the two. There's a marked difference between the two.
Yep.
Just like there's in black people's world, there's a difference between black people and the N-word.
That's true.
We don't want to be associated with them because they're not us. They are worthless human beings.
Yep,
don't associate me with them N people. We're not the same.
Nope.
Y'all don't care for your life. You don't care for your kid's life. You don't care about nothing but yourself. That's what an N-word is. That's not black people though.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't conflate law-abiding people that came to this country legally and did all the hard work to be here and contributed while they were waiting, which is what I did, to people who just come over here and getting free stuff. That we're not the same, like at all, and that's annoying to me.
See, you have to look at what they've done in New York City and how they've acted, where they will rob in New York and then go to Florida to spend the money.
Yep.
But they won't rob in Florida because they know they'll get arrested and deported. But they'll do it in New York City because they know nothing will happen to them.
Right.
And we see this over and over again, where they're even attacking cops, and like it's not a problem according to the left, but it is. It is a problem.
All right, let's continue.
Nonstop immigration was the way to create wealth and prosperity and lower home prices, then London would be doing great. And I got to tell you, I was in London last year, and it's not doing so good. My interest is not in protecting the good people of another country. I'm a senator for the state of Ohio. Our leaders have to protect the interests of the citizens of this country. The most important lesson of World War II is that if the home front is strong, then we can win and project power overseas. Our leaders seem, of course, to have forgotten that. But as much as our leaders have forgotten that, and as much as I think that the most significant example of that is in Ukraine, where we have sent hundreds of billions of dollars of weaponry with no obvious end in sight and no obvious conclusion or even objective that we're close to getting accomplished there. And so many of my colleagues ignore the basic realities of war. But I will say, on the good news, the majority of the Republican House and the majority of the Republican Senate, the most recent cycle said no more to this, no more, right? That's a good thing.
So, I mean, like I said, at least he is not for funding Ukraine indefinitely, which we shouldn't be doing in the first place. Like a lot of that is just because they started that nonsense. No matter what they try to convince you otherwise, that was purely something that they kept pushing for. And it wouldn't have happened under Trump to begin with. But here, to his credit, I want to show a video that was going around today of London. So
That's coming to America. It's already in Minnesota,
So
isn't it?
yeah.
Yep.
So he said the
Michigan.
first Islamist country that's going to get a nuke is going to be England.
Okay.
But it's just the point is like there's nothing wrong with immigration, but a lot of these people that immigrate to these places don't want to assimilate.
That's the
They
problem.
just don't. They do
Yeah.
not want to assimilate. They want to keep their culture and overtake the other one, transplanting it. This is what we've seen a lot, especially in Europe when it comes to the immigrant Muslim population, is they've just taken over spaces and made them no-go zones. And it's not to say that they haven't the people there aren't exactly the best when it comes to actually dealing with them either. They don't want them to assimilate, but they also don't want to assimilate. So there's always going to be that friction because of it.
Yeah, I saw a statement here, and I want to address it because
Was it Bill?
it's one thing I think that we forget that he actually may have done the correct thing about, and people may not like where I'm going to go with this, but and it is about Trump when he was in office. Okay, if I can't find it here, it was about Hillary. That he ran on. There it is. Okay, so he ran on lock her up. Now, yes, we did want to see Hillary persecuted and prosecuted for what she did because we understood what she actually did. Here's the problem. If he had become president and gone after her, like out loud said, I want you to go, that would have been outside of his purview.
Yeah.
He couldn't do that. So even if he ran on it, that he wanted her to get locked up, he may have been able to put somebody in power over the DOJ that would have had at least her on their radar, which I thought he would have done with people like Bill Barr, but we saw where Bill went to. So he couldn't directly, unlike Biden, which actually went in and told his DOJ what to do. He is not able to do that. So even if he had done it, he would have been operating outside of his purview, which would have given them even more fodder to get him out. Because trust me, they would have gone after him for doing that, and he would have been not only impeached but ousted.
Yep.
Yeah.
Trust me.
And here's the thing: she should have been indicted under Obama to begin with.
Yeah.
Because she did commit crimes, and they said they weren't crimes because there was no criminal intent.
Yeah.
Right.
And
you remember what Comey
said?
said?
It's not on his presidency that fell through. I agree that person saying it's who he picked in the later line of who he had to oversee. And this is why I say he was picking, and I do believe this 100%, that he's picking from a mindset of business, which is why you saw him run the finances of America the way he did. If somewhere is hemorrhaging cash, you do what? You shut it down.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how he functioned. If you watch, the reason we had more money coming into the economy, because we shut off money going out.
Yep.
So this is why the economy was flourishing under Trump. It had nothing to do with policy. It had everything to do with hemorrhaging. He knew how to stop the hemorrhaging. And if he could accomplish what he accomplished just by hemorrhaging stoppage, imagine what he could do with actual policy changes that caused the hemorrhaging. If he had people in his wheelhouse that he could hire and fire at will, that he thought he could do, but he can't do it. So,
yeah. And here's the thing with Trump, what I think he's doing. I think he's letting the swamp expose themselves. So when he talked about draining the swamp, I don't think he meant he was just going to go in and start removing people. You're gone, you're gone, you're gone. I think he was going to force them to expose themselves, show their hand. And this is exactly what they're doing. They're all showing their hand. And with this last attempt on his life, that really showed that the swamp is deep. So just sit back and watch the show, man. And you're going to see more and more come out, and more of these people are going to start showing their hand. And this is what he meant.
But the thing with Vance, though, for me is I've never heard of the guy, and I don't know how he moves in a sense because he's a former military dude. But at the same time, is he anti-war? What are his understandings of international relations like? Because I mean, we're seeing him go to the UK to speak, but like, I mean, that's the whole role of a VP is It's represent America on the international front.
Now, if he takes his cues
Right.
from his president, I'll be good with him.
Yeah.
If he doesn't
Yeah.
try to step out of the agenda that Trump put forward, I'll be with. Now, again, he could easily be. This is the only saving grace I could see for Vance at this point, in my mind, for me, not for anybody else, for me. You could be someone that flip-flop, but if you're proving to me that you can listen to Trump and say, okay, I was wrong about a few things, I've changed my mind, but now you're his VP. You no longer, hear me out, Mr. Vance, you're his VP. He picked you. He picked you. He didn't pick you to run your agenda. He picked you to run his.
Mhm.
If you're becoming the person that's stepping in there to function on a different agenda, you're not the vice president, you're the president wannabe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, if you can just stay in your lane and not try to sabotage stuff, we could get along. But understand this, I think we're at a crossroads right now that if you act up and behave like Pence, you're not going to get off as easy as Pence.
Yeah.
I'm telling you now, your whole career will be over. You're not going to get elected to jack squat. You won't see the light a day in parliament. You will never see government office again. And I mean never. You will be harassed everywhere you go if you pull a Mike Pence.
Yep.
And I'm not condoning harassing the man, but I'm letting him know that there are going to be people that will view you as some of the most ridiculous turncoat possible, and you're going to be treated like trash. You're the VP of the person that's putting forward policy, not you. Mike Pence thought that he was the policymaker. That's not your role. Now, if you can do that, I think we can get along, even if you have some discrepancies with Donald Trump and his personality. But from what I'm seeing, I don't know if I could trust you, bro. I don't. The beard doesn't sell me. Your demeanor doesn't sell me. You behave an awful lot like Pence in your demeanor. And when that burn happened, bro, that was. I look. I was so livid at that, man. You couldn't talk to me because how mad I was at Pence.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing with Vance too. Vance did say in a video that he was about Project 2025. He said he agreed with some of the things in Project 2025. Trump has already denounced Project 2025. So here's what I kind of think will happen. If something does happen to Trump, say they do another attempt on his life, they install Vance. Vance has already come out and say that he supports Project 2025. What is the left's boogeyman right now?
2025.
Project 2025. So if Vance comes out and says, I'm for Project 2025, the left sees it as a threat. And even some people on the right are kind of like, oh, I don't want nothing to do with Project 2025. Trump's out, Vance is in, runs against Biden. Biden talks about Project 2025 as the boogeyman. Biden gets reelected. And we're back to where we're at now. Hell.
Question for you, Coy.
Why you can't pick the state in the same state? Because it's governing rules for the elections, just like you can't. It's hard to explain because it's one of those things. Is like it's just to keep unfair competition out. Is what it really is. Because like if you have two people from the same state, more than likely to sweep that state's really high. But it's just the rules that they put in place. Is really what it comes down to. Is the rules.
What they're trying to remove in their mind is cronyism.
Yeah. Exactly.
However, you still end up with cronyism because they may bring somebody in that has the same moral stance or lack of moral stance,
or they carpet bag.
Yeah, without being from the same state anyway. So it's not really an avoidance. It just makes it less likely that you share the same concern for only one state. But they still have the same provisions of saying, oh, well, the person, has to be an American citizen. But that's different because you have to govern the place that you're from.
Well, I mean, you see that with Nancy Pelosi installing her nephew, Gavin Newsom, into California. They're both in the same state.
Right.
So it's like rules for these.
It exists regardless. Yeah. Right. It always exists. It doesn't really matter.
So even if he adopts or is okay with Agenda 2025.
Yeah.
He can be okay with it as a Republican because that's his mindset to do. However, you can't let what you like about 2025 overrule the fact that the one that picked you to be president is not behind 2025.
Yep.
This is where you tell people, while I may agree with what's in 2025, the president does not, and I'm pushing his agenda. Now, if you came forward and did that, that would put my mind a little bit more at ease. A little, not a whole lot, but a little. More of these.
Yep.
But your first 2 years will tell me everything I need to know.
Yep.
Maybe not even 2. I only need 1. If I can look at you in 1 year, having had the hindsight of how Pence behaved, I will be able to read you better and know whether or not you'll fit. As of now, though, I would definitely have preferred Carson.
Yes.
Sure.
The only good thing so far in my mind is the fact that Europe is wary of Vance, and then so is Zelensky, which is the video that I was going to play before we get into
Nobody
his
cares
military
about
record.
that.
I know, but it's just how this is how they think. But it's the thing it leads into his military record.
Senator J.D. Vance, who was in Munich at the security conference but didn't meet with you, he said that even if you got the $60 billion in aid, it is not going to fundamentally change the reality on the battlefield. What's your response to that?
I'm not sure that he understands what's going on here. And we don't need any rhetoric from people who are not deeply in the war.
In the pocket.
So to understand it is to come to the front line to see what's going on, to speak with the people, then to go to civilians to understand what will be with them, and then what will be with them without this support. And he will understand that millions of people have been killed, will be killed.
So he doesn't understand it.
Because he doesn't understand it. Of course, God bless you don't have the war.
I want you to understand something. Anyway. A cross-dressing homosexual is trying to tell a war veteran they don't know about war. I want you to make sure you get this. An actor, homosexual, cross-dressing, fanny banded boy is trying to tell an actual man who fought in war he doesn't understand war when Zelensky ain't been in one. And still not in one.
Nope.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much an illegitimate president.
Come on, people.
They still have yet to have elections here. But here's the thing. It's like he's coming at him as he doesn't know, but he's probably one of the only people that would actually know. Because like even though J.D. Vance, as a Marine, was in the Civil Affairs Division, he was for the PR section of the Marine Corps. During 2005, which is the same year that Abu Ghraib prison issue happened, and also when Saddam Hussein was on trial. I want you to remember that. There are 2 major issues that happened in the same deployment that he had to deal with the locals. So like he has gotten his experience when it comes to dealing with foreign nationals through the Marine Corps. So like that's one of the things that he's the most experienced at is probably going to be foreign policy. I will give him that. But at the same time, he's not a combat veteran in such that you would think what Michael and I were. We're infantry guys. He's not the same. He was in a different section dealing with things.
I get that, but at least he has been in the military.
Yeah,
right.
Zelensky's
which
never,
a lot of people
ever been there. No, he was spending his time entertaining homosexuals and cross-dressing,
shaking his booty.
So no, you have nothing to say. You're collecting money from a known pedophile and an entire regime that's always going to defend pedophilia. And you run an entirely almost carbon copy of the brown shirts.
Yep.
Why would we support you? You don't deserve our money.
And isn't it ironic that he would boast up and talk good about Biden, who has never, ever served in the military?
Oh, yeah.
But talk about a guy that has served as if Biden knows more about war than J.D. Vance. Even though J.D. Vance may not know that much, he knows more than Biden. But he loves Biden.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
That's what they keep coming down, is that the Europe's concerned that he's going to keep pushing what Donald Trump wants, which is to make the Europeans pay for their own defense, which is what we've been subsidizing for a very long time. And here's my thing. I told my wife this earlier, is that, you know what the European Union is? It's that one cousin that thinks they're better than you, that talks crap all the time and then asks you for money. That's what they are. They think they're better than you. They ask for money. Like they ask for your money whenever they're broke, or whenever somebody comes to beat them up, they call you up and say, hey, can you help me out? Even though they'll sit there and talk crap to you all the time. That's what the European Union is like.
Right. That's why we don't need them. We should.
So here's my final thoughts on J.D. Vance, is that there are things that I'm looking out for that rub me the wrong way. Whether he lives up to those expectations or not, I do not know. So I'm going to reserve my judgment until I see more from him. But he is inexperienced. He's only had 2 years barely in the Senate in terms of actual political power, but he has experience dealing with foreign nationals in a kind of foreign policy relation, but that as a young man and probably a lower enlisted. So I'll take that with a grain of salt. That's the reality of the thing. He's famous for writing a book and being in the Senate for 2 years. That is about it. His experience is very low compared to other people he could have picked. That being said, I would have preferred a Vivek, but he has even less experience than J.D. Vance. The person who I would have loved to see him kind of team up with, which we might still see, would be Tulsi, because she does have the foreign policy experience. She does have senatorial, or not senatorial, but yeah, military experience, congressional experience, and anti-war. That's a person I would have liked to have seen there, but that's not going to happen. She might be in the cabinet, which is more than likely true, but that's the only other people that I would have picked myself. Personal opinions.
Yeah. For verification that people needed, here is your verification. This would be him, by the way. There he is. This is actually Zelensky. This is not Photoshop, deep fake. This is him.
Yeah, that gives me. But to be fair, he was a comedian before he got into office.
He's still a comedian. Trust me.
Yeah,
he's still a comedian. He's a joke, a massive joke.
You know, for me, like J.D. Vance, I'm 100% not sold on him. I do not blindly follow anybody. I don't care if they served in the military. I don't care if they're black. I don't care if they're Christian. I don't care what they are. All I care about is what is he going to do for this country?
Right.
I don't care about foreign relations. I don't care about any of that. What are you going to do for the American people? Period. Because if you look at Dan Crenshaw, Mr. Super freaking Navy SEAL himself, he's trash.
Yeah.
This is why I don't support
an insider trader too.
They have that Marine or Army or Navy in front of their name. They don't get my support just because of that, because that means nothing to me. What are you going to do for our country? And what are you going to do for our country? And what's best for the American people on our soil? Period.
Yep.
So I would go. I would go with, I would have went with a Ben Carson like Marlon, or I would have went with a Tulsi Gabbard. Not because of her military experience. That I don't care. I like her anti-war stance.
Yeah, but there's a lot of things I disagree with Tulsi on too. But I still think she's a principled person, and I would rather have seen her. But that's kind of a wish list type of situation.
Yeah. Jay,
I get the complication in picking him. I do get how difficult picking a VP is, because you have to make them match with your personality, and you have to do a whole lot and trust them to do what they say they've been doing. But you're trusting people in politics. I get it's hard, which is why Trump, being an outside man, should have stuck with an outside man.
Yeah.
I just think you should have been better off.
Vivek would have been a better choice.
The same mindset that you have about the whole thing. If you would stick like that, if you're going to run it like a business, pick a businessman.
Yep.
I would have pick one of your random businessmen from somewhere else that you can actually trust financially with things. And that way, for a fact that they would follow, because your method would work out financially for America. That's what your biggest pull is on this. You know how to run a business.
Yep.
And that means through bankruptcy and after and long before. So I don't want to have someone, even if they've only had 2 years experience, I want them to be fresh off the boat of having lived in our world and live what we're going through, so they can say, this is what will fix it. That's what it used to be. It used to be you could bring in people who were regular Joes to become candidates for not just the presidency, but for the Senate and for the House.
Yep.
People who are living amongst the regular Jones, and they could tell them, hey, look, man, this ain't working out. All right, I'll go to Congress and I'll fix that. That's not the case anymore. It's all about money, which is why I don't want him picking somebody like. Now, Vance may surprise me, and I hope he does. I hope he surprises me. I really do.
I doubt it.
But until he surprises me, I'm going to consider him a problem.
I doubt it. Jay, what about you, man?
I'm not sold on him, but I'm not necessarily against him, because right now, for me, the litmus test for a good VP is anything but Pence. Considering Pence's track record. I would say that it is important for a VP to understand his role in the hierarchy of the executive branch, and he is to be the one that goes out and performs his duties on the international scale, and on top of securing the border, which is what the borders are supposed to do based on how a VP is supposed to operate. which we don't see Kamala doing at all. So in light of the fact that Pence didn't really do a whole lot for our borders per se, and the abject failure of Kamala Harris, Vance to me seems like a better breath of fresh air. But again, I have to see his track record, and because I never knew who he was to begin with, I have no opinion on the guy at the moment.
You know who this sounds like to me? You know who Vance reminds me of? Barack Obama. You know how Barack Obama was this young senator, came out of nowhere and became the president of the United States. No one knew anything about the guy.
Smooth.
Just smooth talker, got up there, looked good, was a good looking man, smooth talker. Nobody knew nothing about him. And boom, look what happened to our country. So,
well, what if you were going to go with somebody like that? He should have gone with Vivek. So that doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why Trump picked Vance. I really don't. I don't know anything other than that's the only thing I can do. And maybe he was lobbied because of his son. I don't know. There's too many questions with Vance. I don't know why he picked him. I don't know what he's bringing to the table that any of the other people he has under his umbrella couldn't have done it themselves. I don't know.
I mean, if it were my wish list, for me, a VP pick would have either been Tulsi Gabbard or Byron Donalds.
I like Byron too.
Yeah, Byron Donalds would have been a better pick in my opinion, but that's just me. Also, the thing that bugs me about J.D. Vance is it always looks like he's wearing eyeliner.
Eyeliner.
Yeah,
I was gonna say he got that Muppet kind of guy.
He's got that thing where it looks like he's wearing like the eyeliner around his eyes.
Yeah,
like I don't know, man. I don't know.
Girls might dig it. You never know. You might get the female vote.
It's fine if he wants to do
the
that.
Gen
It's
Z
just
demographic in there with the eyeliner.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know, chat. Put your choice in there. Just real quick. Who would you have picked? We don't need a long.
I know what it is. Someone else said, "Would you prefer this or 4 more years of Biden and Kamala?" Here's the problem: you may end up getting the same 4 years of Biden and Kamala if you pick the wrong VP.
Yep.
I'm just saying you could still get the same result because they'll end up fighting for the same team. So that's why we have such a big issue. Heaven alone knows how much of a damage that Pence did in the background that we didn't see.
Yeah.
How much he was in the ear, only to find out later that he was a turncoat, and all he had to give him was a Freemason coin. That's all it took was a damn Freemason coin.
Yeah,
Pence, I can believe the allegations that you diddle kids, man. After that, I can believe it.
Vince was just an awkward pick to begin with, but he was the establishment choice. We all know that.
It was the handshake, the infamous handshake where they whisper in the ear. It was one of those.
Yeah.
But like I said, we're going to see. And again, if you go back and watch the RNC, the convention is still going on. Look at when Trump and Vance were standing side by side on that stage. And you can kind of see in Trump's face when they said, his VP pick is Vance. Trump didn't really look too enthused. This is why I'm saying that Vance was picked by the RNC in order for Trump to get the endorsement of the RNC. Trump didn't want that guy, but he had no choice.
Maybe Vance doesn't overshadow him. That's probably why. Because Vivek is it could take the spotlight a little bit from Trump.
I would want somebody like that, someone to take the spotlight.
That's what I would think. But like I said, it really comes down to it's his decision. I don't know why he did it, but we'll see in the future. Maybe we were proven wrong. But I would rather the concerns we have moving forward. So if they do show up, you're like, hey, we told you.
Yeah,
we warned you it was happening.
Just go watch convention. Like I said, go watch the convention where they're both up there in the stands, and you can see Trump's face.
I also do not agree with certain conservatives going after his wife and kids. I do not like that. That's disgusting, and I think it's stupid.
Yeah, that's
it's avoiding the topic.
Yeah.
The topic at hand here is the fact that you have somebody that may not possibly be, perhaps maybe, may not be the best thing to run Trump's presidency the way he's supposed to run the presidency.
Yep.
And we're trying to get people that will actually do what we want implemented. We don't need to fight within the confines of the cabinet to get the stuff that we thought we would have under wrap. We don't need to fight over that. It should be an automatic thing. You're in my wheelhouse as my VP. There should be no contention about what my plan is.
Yep.
I shouldn't have to fight you on it.
And
Exactly.
that's just like in the military. You know, we have different levels of chain of command. So whatever the company commander's vision is, everyone below him that is in some type of position of authority has to abide by his vision, whether they agree with it or not. They have to abide by that vision. So it's the same with the cabinet picks. As you said, Trump has a vision, Agenda 47, that needs to abide and follow that vision. That's how it works. That shows actual unity.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be a vice president that goes in there behind closed doors and talks to the opposition about how you don't agree with the president, all you're giving the opposition, you're just giving them freaking fuel. You're adding fuel to it. So now they got something. Okay, now we got Vance. Vance doesn't really like Trump. So we're going to do everything when it comes time. He's going to flip on him. Vance needs to go in there knowing that he's with Trump. He's ride or die, whether he agrees with everything or not. And that's it.
Yeah, like I said, my concern is that I think he might be too much of a political animal, and that's the thing that concerns me.
Yeah.
He's part of the Uniparty.
He might have bitten off another Pence bullet here, and will unfortunately time will tell.
Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate, is that we don't have I don't have enough of JD to tell me that he'll be staying the course. I have enough on him to tell me that he changes course a lot, and I don't think I can necessarily say off the top that he's a good pick or a bad pick, but I'm leaning more toward that he was probably not the smartest pick, for sure. Friday, time will tell. Friday we have this guy has already, gotten what he deserved, but we do want to talk about it in case you haven't heard about the guy named Destiny.
Okay.
But Destiny, we'll talk about Destiny and his collapse, and hopefully his eventual removal from every single platform that has to do with social media. He's one of the most abhorrent individuals I have ever witnessed in my life, and Hitler existed. When I tell you that this guy is not only a piece of work, but I would not feel, and I'm going to talk like him, I wouldn't feel sorry if I saw him getting whooped on in the middle of a mall. I might videotape, blast some music, and party with the people doing it. That's how abhorrent this man is.
Hey, Marlon, I'm going to send a picture to the chat so people know who Destiny is.
Yeah.
Yeah, in case you don't know. But here's my thing too.
When you see him, you'll
understand. Photoshop.
I posted this before, but like Destiny is just the left version of Nick Fuentes. That's what I believe. Like they're both the same sort of. They're both the same side of the coin, right? One's on the right, one's on the left, and they're both rage baiters.
Yeah. So for people that don't know, just go and research Destiny. He's all over YouTube. He's debating conservatives all the time. He's just kind of shock content. He says things, just crazy things about the right. And if you don't know, but but that's him. But that's his body too. But somebody said every time you say something about Destiny, I'm gonna make his head bigger. So they started making his head bigger and bigger. But I have another one, man. That's Destiny though. I have another one
he's a Twitch streamer, and he's was a Twitch streamer, and he's a debater, but he's known for being a degenerate, hardcore lefty.
Yeah,
and a
we'll lump him with a bunch of other TikTok folks that are akin to him.
Sense.
So
we should address his cuckoldery.
Yes. Well, it's going to be everything. Trust and believe. It'll be everything. So tune in for that. It'll be at minimum very educational on the kinds of people that are allowed platforms anymore.
Yeah.
And why it takes something so stupid for them to get kicked off when they've been saying something just as bad their whole life.
Yep.
So we'll talk about that, and we'll have a good discussion, I believe. So we'll catch up with you guys on Wednesday, and this Saturday is our Rumble only event Saturday. Okay, so make sure you guys keep up on that one. Mr. Lee,
like, share, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you Friday.
Peace.
Oh.